So eighth house is also like, could be like a sudden win, but it also can be like you think you're gonna get it and boom, you lose it. You know what I mean? So, but definitely with this Rahu return that's happening in his chart, he just opened up a huge field of opportunities and potentials for him in the future. Will Pete Buttigieg win the Democratic nomination? Hi, I'm Thor Sandalwood, and that's what I'm looking at today, using astrology as my guide. So the issue with Pete Buttigieg is that I cannot find a confirmed birth time. So what I decided to do, there was some people that said he was born on January 19th, 1982. We know the day at 7:11 a.m. But the conflict happened when someone showed me an excerpt from a book he wrote where there's a passage that says he was born at night. So that was definitely in conflict with the birth time that I've been seeing that people have been telling me. Also, I was trying to validate that 7/11 birth time, and it just didn't seem to line up with any of his life events that I could tell. So what we're going to do in astrology is we're just going to look at his birth chart from his moon sign, the sign that his moon is in. So on that day of January 19th, 1982, the moon was in Scorpio. So I set the birth time for 5:11 a.m. only so that it's easier to read his chart. So it shows the first house is Scorpio with his moon there in it. So that's just made easier so I can read it. The downside with this moon chart is that I can't look at what kind of Mahadasha he's in, and I can't look at what kind of Bhukti he's in. So I don't know exactly what type of karma is manifesting in Mayor Pete's life at this moment. But a lot of people have been requesting me to look at Mayor Pete's chart. So let's do it, right? Just let's have fun with this. Okay, so because we can gather a lot of information about a chart from the moon sign, because the moon is our consciousness. The moon is our emotions, our inner selves, so to speak. So also, as of December 13th, 2019, when I'm making this video, I also went to Real Clear Politics just to kind of see the standing of where all the contenders are, because I'm not doing astrology in a vacuum. So we see that Biden is still number one. He's at about 29%, 29 points. Okay, so Mayor Pete's number 4. So we also got to look at what kind of momentum is Mayor Pete building, because it looks like in the last several months he's been going up in the polls, and he seems to have a very strong following since people have been messaging me about Mayor Pete. So if we're going to look at first house, his moon is in Scorpio. Right away, Scorpio is the sign of, it's ruled by Mars, but Scorpio to me is always like that sign of hidden things, and especially his moon being there, it would seem to me that there's a lot of very deep hidden emotions within Mayor Pete that come from past lives. Since in astrology we're dealing with that, we're not just dealing with the karma from this life, but many, many lifetimes in the past. And also, this is going to be a strange concept to you guys, but we're actually living parallel lifetimes. But in our human perception, we call these things past lives or future lives. But we're actually living simultaneous lives. Okay, but that's another rant to go on. So anyways, that Scorpio is just like these really deep, maybe even kind of conflicted emotions. Like his mother, because moon is a karaka for mother, his mother might have been a very secretive type individual. Because Scorpio is the 8th house in the natural zodiac, and 8th house is all about secrets and all types of things like that. So, Mayor Pete might have somewhat of a secretive nature. And what I find interesting about Mayor Pete's story is that, he apparently grew up in a very religious upbringing. And, later out, he came out that he was gay. So that must have been a very huge moment for him, especially when you're raised in a religious type of setting. That was a huge, that was something probably very deep inside of him. And it was probably quite amazing when he was able to bring that to the surface and publicly come out. And now he's one of the first major, openly gay candidates running for president. I don't think, maybe he's the first one that I know of that's actually running for president. He's openly gay. One thing I noticed about his chart, he's got a lot of energy. Obviously, he's got Sun, Venus, and Mercury in the third house of Capricorn. So there's a lot of that energy in the third house. Third house has to do with communications. It can deal with bravery. It can deal with lots of travels. It can deal with business, like privately owned business, but also it could be busyness. And also with Sun, Venus, and Mercury in there, that means he's got a lot of mental traffic happening in his mind. Because third house is your daily mentality. There's thoughts as human beings. We tend to have scripted thoughts unless we consciously go in and try to change those thought patterns that we're having every day. It tends to be this repeating loop of various thoughts we have about, our environments, our family, co-workers, our work. So these are like kind of scripted thoughts that we have every day. And so when someone has a lot of planets in the third house, I tend to think, wow, they got a lot of busy mental chatter going on. So I would recommend to Mayor Pete to start meditating to try to slow down some of that mental traffic. One thing that's very interesting is, and this was, if you guys watched my Boris Johnson video, he was going through something called a Rahu return. And that's when Rahu conjoins your natal Rahu every 18 and a half years. And so Mayor Pete is having that right now. So we know that Rahu is transiting the sign of Gemini. And in his birth chart, Rahu is in Gemini. And so we know right now, so he's at the age of 36 or 37. That's when you have your first Rahu return is at 18 years old, around 18 to 19 years old. And you have all these life choices presented to you. Then your second Rahu return happens at 36 to 37. And that's what Mayor Pete's going through. Now, Boris Johnson was on his third, I believe, Rahu return. And you saw he was able to pull off winning that snap election yesterday. So with Mayor Pete, it's not that the Rahu return does give us choices, and it can be that fork in the road moment where we can either go this way or that way, and there's this karmic destiny of what choice we follow. Now, just because Mayor Pete's going through a Rahu return, it doesn't mean that he's actually going to be choosing to be president of the United States and he becomes, the Democratic candidate and then he becomes president. It's more that, that he's making a choice right now. Like he's choosing that he's going to run for president right now. And that thing could break down. Because Rahu means risk. You're taking a risk right now. So Mayor Pete, Rahu return, Rahu's transiting over his natal Rahu. That means he's taking big risk right now. This risk of running for president, something that he might have never done 5 years ago or 5 years in the future. It's that at this moment in time, he's taking that risk. But it doesn't mean he's going to win. It just means he's taking a risk. So, okay, that gives us a lot of information. This is why he's jumping into this game of politics. But yeah, it can provide a lot of opportunities. I mean, even if Mayor Pete, I'm not seeing the chart. I don't know the Mahadashas. I'm just thinking about where he's at in the polls, the number of endorsements he has, and I'm looking at the chart, and I'm just not quite seeing Mayor Pete being able to pull off a win by the summer 2020, the Democratic convention here. But definitely with this Rahu return that's happening in his chart, this is just a lot of opportunities. Like if Mayor Pete doesn't win this thing, he just opened up a huge field of opportunities and potentials for him in the future. He's going to meet many business contacts, party officials, all types of things that he could use in a future election or something like that. And he's also very young. He's only 36 or 37 years old, which makes him very young. Also, I want to talk about Saturn a little bit because we are going to be going through this big karma shift in January. On January 24th, 2020, Saturn is going to be changing signs from Sagittarius into Capricorn. Saturn is the planet of karma, obviously. So we see Saturn's going to be going over his third from moon. It's going to be going over his natal sun. It's going to be going over his natal Venus and his natal Mercury. for the next 2.5 years. So from all the way to middle of 2022. And so, you know, that could cause, with Saturn transiting that third house, especially third from Moon, it could indicate him experiencing a lot of anxiety. It could lead to depression. So that makes me think that maybe the election doesn't turn out as he hoped. Because Saturn can kind of be that splash of cold water that gets thrown in our face, and then we have to deal with the emotional fallout of what happens after, you know, all the dust settles, so to speak. Definitely, you know, he's going to be going through a lot of anxiety and so forth over the next 2.5 years with it, especially transiting over all these natal planets that he has. Also, I noticed what's interesting is 8th from Moon. We're going to talk about Rahu a little bit more, but Rahu's also in his 8th from Moon. An 8th house, it also can deal with things kind of falling apart. So 8th house to me, I don't usually think of someone winning an election or some sort of thing when 8th house is involved. Because 8th house is kind of like secrets coming out. It's known as an evil house. Things generally fall apart. I mean, 8th house could represent like someone going bankrupt. So 8th house could be like a sudden win, but it also can be like you think you're gonna get it and boom, you lose it. You know what I mean? So like it makes me think of those people that win the lottery and then they blow it all like in a year or two after they get all that money. That's kind of reminds me of 8th house, like sudden win, sudden loss kind of thing. So guys, I don't have the Mahadashas for Mayor Pete, and you know his chart. He doesn't have a chart that says he can't become a politician, but I actually just even judging it from the Moon, I'm not seeing like a totally, and this is a lot of being an astrologer is also intuition. I'm not seeing like a huge karma unfoldment that's saying he's going to win the Democratic nomination this summer. And I'm just looking at some of the transits. So I know where transiting Rahu is. I know where transiting Saturn's going to be. And I don't quite see it. Of course, you know, if I had the accurate birth time, I could get we could really zero in. But I'm not seeing that Mayor Pete's going to pull this off. And then also we have all the data points that we're looking at. So guys, what do you think? What do you think? Just comment down below. Let me know if you love it, you hate it, what's your opinions on the election. If you like my video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more politics videos. I love doing these things. And thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.